end of the world. I could feel all this death.
Everything they've built will fall! And from the ashes of their world, we'll build a better one!
Don't you understand that when a fellow like me looks at the landscape and sees the depravity, the perversion, redefining marriage and telling us that marriage is not between a man and a woman? Come on, Iowa. It's nonsense. It is evil. It's wicked. It's sinful. And they want us to swallow it. You say, we have to run this bunch out of Washington, D.C. We have to rid the earth of them. Get them out of there. Ted Cruz loves God. He loves James Madison, and he's a strict constitutionalist. You know what Ted Cruz understands? He understands the same thing that Zach just got through talking about. God raises these empires up. It is God who brings them down.
This march today, this demonstration today, is really by people who think that a same-sex union bill would destroy their version of the family. Just take a look behind me. How many people are here? We've got music, people picnicking, people in the square with their flags that are not just about the Catholic Church, but are people who are not Catholics that are here in the piazza as well. People who have gathered just to make their voices heard ahead of a debate that's going to start again on Tuesday in Parliament, and a vote that could come sometime in the week or so after that. Italy, of course, is the last major country in Europe that doesn't have any sort of law recognizing the rights of same-sex unions, and this law is very important, not just in Italy, but across Europe.
Barbie, if you could help us to kind of understand the public pulse on this, because again, we see the crowd behind you for Family Day, but again, is this a clearly divided issue? Are there as many people who would support it as those who would oppose it?
Well, absolutely. You know, just a week ago, we had similar protests by people who do support the bill. They were in 82 countries across Italy that support the bill, that got out in the same sorts of numbers as we've seen here today.
Who can or cannot pray before Phoenix City Council meetings? We've been telling you how a Satanist prayer is planned for February. ABC 15's Raquel Cervantes is live at the Phoenix City Council chambers. And Raquel, there's an effort to stop this.
Kim, there isn't. A vote will happen here on Wednesday. Some city council members are calling this idea just a horrible plan. So they're trying to get this emergency ordinance passed that would stop this Satanist prayer. But let's explain what's planned. This group, a Satanist group out of Tucson, has requested to give the invocation before a meeting next month. And that request has been granted. Under the current protocol, a person just simply requests to deliver the prayer. So a few city council members want to make a rule change. It would require this person to be a community member, and a council member would have to select the person. The mayor and another city council member have said that the Satanist group has a right to speak. Council member Sal DeCiccio says he believes the emergency rule will essentially stop the Satanist group from delivering the prayer.
I think it's bad for the city of Phoenix. It's a distraction. It makes a mockery of everything. And if the mayor and others want them to come and speak, they ought to put their name behind it.
And a member of the Satanist group has said he doesn't worship the devil. He says his religion is a symbol of rebellion. So this vote will happen here on Wednesday. The council member tells us that they need 7 votes to get this ordinance passed. So Kim, we'll be following up on this one.
Keep us updated on this, Raquel. Thank you.
All right, so we've shown you sinkholes before, Sarah, in our city here, but they're nothing like this. Check this out. This is drone video of a monster sinkhole. This is the Oregon coast. transportation crews actually don't know exactly how big it is, but they're saying at least 60 feet deep. You can actually see it's kind of two sinkholes there combined and actually wiped out the highway. The area, of course, we've been talking about a lot of rainfall, and that is likely what triggered the sinkhole. We're very visual here on the Now, so we wanted to give you an idea of how deep that sinkhole is. I've climbed up to the second floor of the newsroom here. We are about 20 feet up, so you can imagine this sinkhole is 3 times as deep. Sarah, that is what we call math. Back to you.
More than 38,000 people without power at this hour. Take a look at this map. You can see the outages are all over the county. SDG&E says crews are working to make repairs, but it is unknown when power will be fully restored. To track the outages in your neighborhood, go to 10news.com.
Parts of California are cleaning up this morning from a deadly winter storm. High wind ravaged the state. One driver in San Diego was killed Sunday when a tree toppled onto her car. Ben Tracy in Los Angeles shows us all the damage.
High winds uprooted an 8-foot wide oak tree in San Diego, killing a woman driving this Honda. 3 other cars were also damaged. Trees fell all across Southern California because the ground is soaked by recent storms, and winds were howling at up to 70 miles per hour. Gusts topped 115 miles per hour in some areas, and some trees stood no chance.
Heard it pop, like the slow motion, it was down.
The winds also downed power lines, leading to widespread outages. Late Sunday, 41,000 people still had no power.
I've been here 15 years, never seen the wind blow this hard.
This scaffolding was reduced to a pile of twisted metal. A worker was trying to reduce the wind resistance when it collapsed. Thankfully, he wasn't hurt.
He was just walking back like this, and all of a sudden, everything fell down around him.
This car slid off an embankment and rolled over 4 times, but the driver walked away.
But I was pretty stable inside the vehicle. As far as I had my hand on the steering wheel, my hand on the roof of the vehicle, and I kind of just went with the car as it rolled over.
Despite the damage, California desperately needs the rain. After 4 years of punishing drought, El Nino-fueled storms are expected to last through spring. For CBS This Morning, Ben Tracy, Los Angeles.
That are leaning on their sides. This storm left scenes like this all over the country. It's not just here at the park. How about the most severe one that happened in Pacific Beach last night? One woman was killed when a tree fell on her car, crushing her. 4 other cars were damaged during that collapse. Witnesses say they rushed in to help, but there was really nothing they could do. Meanwhile, this morning in Ocean Beach, a palm tree fell on an SUV. Take a look. The tree wasn't uprooted. The wind was so strong it snapped it in half at its base. No one was in that SUV when the tree fell, but it landed diagonally across the entire top of the car. In Del Mar, trees lining a driveway on Seaview Drive fell on top of a house. 2 tall eucalyptus trees ripped up part of the asphalt and landscaping as they fell. The owner of that house says they didn't damage his roof too badly. He can still stay inside his home. This is just a small sampling of the damage over the last 24 hours. I spoke with Bill Harris from the city. He tells me that their crews are out in full force. Their top priority right now is to clear any trees off of any roads so that traffic can move smoothly. Then they'll work on getting to everything else.
It is really what everyone is talking about this morning. Those overnight and early storms, rattling windows, dumping rain, even bringing some hail.
A little bit of hail, February 1st, 2016. We'll get this in Arizona every day.
Oh yeah, wild weather to kick off the month. One of our viewers in Gilbert showing us the hail coming down around 7 o'clock this morning. And from hail in the valley to snow in Flagstaff, and a lot of it. A winter storm warning, also an advisory in effect right now. The snow coupled with the wind creating some treacherous driving conditions on I-17.
APS crews working through the night to restore power to this area in North Phoenix. We spoke to someone who lives in an apartment complex right next to this gas station here at 40th Avenue in Bell and said he was without power for almost 12 hours. Tomorrow may be Groundhog Day, but Old Man Winter not showing any signs of backing down. Overnight, pelting rains and fierce winds left their mark on the valley. Earlier today, we counted thousands of power outages. We spotted this APS crew near 40th Avenue in Bell. This man lives at a nearby apartment complex. He'd been without power since 8:30 last night. To make matters worse, his wife depends on a breathing machine at night, so no power means no sleep.
She stayed up. In fact, she's probably still up now with the dog.
Island aboard the research vessel Investigator as part of a 58-day expedition to this part of the world. We observed the summit of Heard Island, which is called Big Bend Volcano Massif, which is atop that is Mawson Peak. Yesterday, when the weather cleared briefly, we saw that the volcano was erupting. We saw vapor being emitted from the top of the volcano, and we saw lava flows coming down the flank of Big Bend. So this is a very exciting observation. There are very few ships that come to this part of the world, and in fact the last geological expedition that landed on Heard Island was in 1987, so nearly 30 years ago.
I was scratching, like my whole family saw my chest and they're like, wow. And then you could see my lips, bumps in my lips, my eyes, my ears.
Lizzie Morales is feeling healthy now, but while visiting family in El Salvador over Christmas, she contracted the Zika virus from a mosquito bite.
You have no strength, no energy, like to do anything, not to even sit down. All you want to do is lay down and sleep.
Since then, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has confirmed at least 30 cases in 11 states and the District of Columbia. All those people traveled abroad to affected areas. On Friday, a top U.S. health official said Americans shouldn't panic.
Having said that, you don't just want to walk away and be very cavalier and say, not a problem. No, we're developing vaccines, better diagnostics, better vector control. We're doing everything that you would do if you were anticipating that there is going to be an outbreak.
The virus has spread fast, mainly through the Americas since last year, prompting the CDC to warn pregnant women against traveling to 22 countries in the region. The Zika virus causes a mild illness in most people. But there is growing evidence linking it to a birth defect called microcephaly, babies born with abnormally small heads and brains. Cases are surging in Brazil. On Friday, Brazil's President Dilma Rousseff said her country launched nationwide efforts to eliminate breeding areas for the Aedes aegypti mosquito.
We're losing the battle against the mosquito. Why? Because if the mosquito keeps breeding, we are all losing the battle against it. So we have to mobilize to win this war.
Brazil is waging the battle as the country prepares for the Olympics in August. On Friday, the International Olympic Committee assured teams traveling there that the games would be safe from the virus. But it also urged visitors to protect themselves by using mosquito repellent and wearing long-sleeved shirts and pants.
We will do everything to ensure the health of the athletes and all the visitors.
Roxana Saberi.
says a Russian warplane violated Turkey's airspace again. CCTV's Natalie Carney reports now from Istanbul.
According to the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, an Su-24 warplane belonging to the Russian Air Force entered Turkish airspace at approximately noon on Friday, despite warnings in English and Russian. Russian Air Force is currently, of course, in northern Syria conducting airstrikes in support of the Syrian government. Erdogan did say that he sees this latest incident as a result of Russia's efforts to escalate the crisis in the region, and also underlined that the issue is being closely monitored by NATO. He went on to then criticize Russia for failing to contribute to anti-terror efforts in the region. Meanwhile, they have summoned the Russian ambassador to Ankara to explain the situation. Russia and Turkey have been at loggerheads, of course, since the downing of a Russian jet by the Turkish army back in November. Moscow is dismissing this latest incident and, of course, reacted furiously after the incident in November, slapping a number of sanctions on Turkey. Natalie Carney for CCTV in Istanbul, Turkey.
Comes as an anonymous U.S. defense official told the Associated Press that the U.S. has seen activity at a DPRK ballistic missile test site that is consistent with previous tests. This comes just 3 weeks after the DPRK drew international condemnation for conducting its 4th nuclear test.
The German Interior Ministry rejects a far-right leader's call for shooting the refugees entering the country, calling it illegal. Interior Ministry spokesman Johannes Dimroth told the news conference that no German policeman will use a firearm against people who are seeking protection in Germany. The head of far-right party Alternative for Germany had called for police to be given powers to use firearms against illegal migrants trying to enter the country. Other politicians and a police union chief have also condemned Frauke Petri's remarks. With a rapidly increasing number of refugees entering Europe, dispute over the right policy has intensified. The Finnish Prime Minister, Juha Sipilä, has also said that for security reasons, he will not be able to fulfill a promise to open his home to refugees. Jan Oberg is founder of transnational.org, joining us from London. Jan Oberg, I would never think that in this day and age that I would come out and ask you that a party in Germany, be it far right, is actually considering killing people, arming policemen to kill people who are fleeing war. But that is a question that I'm going to ask you. And even though it's not yet set as a policy, but just the mere fact that it's being discussed again puts Europe under this question mark.
Yes, I'm appalled too, like you, and I think it's important in 2 ways to keep the proportions here. This is not a viewpoint, this is not an attitude that is general for anyone in Europe. This is a bizarre extremist view. And secondly, the proportions we really have to now think carefully through is that the European Union is 503 million people, and we have received 1.2 in 2015, and probably as many will come in 2016. This is 0.2% of the European people. The proportions I'm asking for is those people who come here must be treated through vision, through leadership, and through humanity by the European governments and by the peoples. And it's the governments who are the problem at the moment, such as Denmark and Sweden, which I'm related to. It can be done differently, but we need a burden-sharing agreement. We need a recognition of the obvious fact that these refugees are coming to Europe because of our warfare in the Middle East and the last 100 years of policies. And we can do better, and we must have leadership. This is not a refugee crisis. This is a European political crisis management crisis.
So put in that context, there has been sufficient time, or maybe not, that European leaders have been discussing this matter. And it seems like, well, in some respects, the buck is being passed when it comes to receiving these refugees. Why is it, and I'm talking after all these emergency meetings that were held at the EU Parliament and so forth and so on, why is there not a concrete, at least approach that has been devised at this point to deal with the matter? Because they keep coming, and then you're having these types of news come out.
Yeah, and these news will come out and these attitudes will grow because there is no management at the top of the system. I think the European leaders have been woefully unprepared for seeing the consequences of what they thought was good policies, bombing, getting rid of terrorists, whatever, creating many more terrorists, and destroying countries. Secondly, even the Swedish Migration Board has not been part of the emergency planning together with 25 or 26 other organizations in Sweden. It is as if we have been used to since '89 that we can get away with everything anywhere and never be asked to pay the price or take a responsibility. Now is the time for Europe to stand up, take co-responsibility for the consequences of what is basically its own policies, even apologize, even start a reconciliation process with the whole of the Middle East, because otherwise this is going to fall apart completely. The EU itself will fall apart when the Dublin Convention and the Schengen Convention are ignored. We will fall apart if we are getting, like the 30s, right-wing people who can get away with these things because we have no policies for receiving these people. I know it's difficult, but we have an enormous amount of resources. If this had been Jews coming from a catastrophe in Israel, somebody would have reacted differently. Now it's Muslims. Secondly, we have economic resources for doing this country, Sweden, has 50, 60 municipalities which have said they cannot take more, and that should be respected because we want to treat them well. But 220 municipalities have said that they can take more refugees. Why don't we then?
Egypt is known for its sunshine, one of the big attractions for tourists. But this past week or so, we have had clouds, heavy rains, and bone-chilling winds.
The reason behind last week's cold wave is what we call the Cyprus law. It's when the atmosphere's temperature in that region radically drops. It usually lasts just 3 days, but unfortunately it has lasted a whole week this year. Therefore the temperature low is harsher than any year. That's part of the effect of the global climate change.
It reached just 4 degrees in Cairo last week. Around the mountains of St. Catherine near the Red Sea, it was 0. For Egyptians, that is particularly Arctic-type conditions.
It's the first time in my life to see such extreme weather. I am 33 years old. I've never seen a winter like this. It's exceeded the expectations of everyone. It's of course out of our hands, but the weather is changing. The Hivran has destroyed many houses in my village. Many people can't find help.
The cold last week was unbearable. Last year, it was just 2 or 3 days. This year, it lasted much longer. I put on layers of clothes. We lit fire and grilled sweet potatoes to keep warm.
Most people here are not prepared for the cold. Few homes have insulation, and many people are too poor to buy blankets. So even a short cold snap can create real suffering.
Right now, the World Health Organization calls the spread of the Zika virus in the Americas an international emergency. Only one type of mosquito can carry that virus, and you can find it right here in Tampa Bay. ABC Action News reporter Ashley Orr met with a doctor who's been studying this species for decades about how you can keep your family safe.
When mosquitoes bite, they're not all the same. This is the Aedes aegypti, or yellow fever mosquito, the same type that can carry the Zika virus.
We're starting to see expansion of this mosquito back into Florida.
Right now, the health department says there are 3 imported cases of the Zika virus in Florida, one of those in Hillsborough County. Dr. Robert Novak has been studying these mosquitoes for 40 years. He says the virus originated in Uganda, but probably got to Brazil during the World Cup. And the mosquitoes that carry it need little water to breed.
It does just as well in the backyard swimming pool of your children, or a flower pot that accumulates water, or used tires.
If you're wondering how little water it takes to breed mosquitoes, take a look at this. 1 dropper full is enough for this mosquito larvae to emerge as a flying adult. Take precautions like getting rid of stagnant water where mosquitoes can lay these eggs and wearing repellent with DEET. But Dr. Novak says we don't have an epidemic here just yet.
You would have to have a combination of a person with that virus in an area where the appropriate mosquito is found, Aedes aegypti.
Right now, we know pregnant women are at the highest risk. The virus is linked to babies born with unusually small heads. But information about the virus is still limited.
We've got to be vigilant. We've got to monitor it. We've got to look at our mosquito population that could produce the highest risk.
In Tampa, I'm Ashley Orr, ABC Action News.
This is just the 4th time the World Health Organization classified an international health emergency. Others include the Ebola outbreak in 2014, a resurgence of the polio virus earlier that same year, and the H1N1 pandemic in 2009.
Power company restarted reactor 3 at the Takahama plant in Fukui Prefecture. This is the 3rd reactor restarted in Japan under tougher regulations adopted after the Fukushima crisis in 2011. Company representatives say it will start generating power on Monday as long as its control rods and other equipment are working properly. They plan to resume commercial operation late next month. The governors of 2 neighboring prefectures are unhappy the company restarted the reactor without their consent.
Part of Kyoto Prefecture is very close to the nuclear plant, so it's regrettable and improper that we were excluded from the approval process.
Yamada said the law should specify which surrounding governments have to be included in consultations before a restart.
We must act responsibly for current and future generations. I, for one, have great anxiety and doubts.
Mikazuki said his prefecture will urge the government and the company to strengthen safety measures.
A single locust eats its own body weight in a day, and it eats any and all kinds of vegetation. In that same day, a 10-centimetre long adult insect can fly more than 50 kilometres. That's just one locust. Multiplied by millions, and that single locust forms part of a ravenous, devastating force.
A huge swarm of flying locusts arrived here last October at the end of their breeding cycle. They laid their eggs, and what we're seeing now is the product of that swarm.
This region has seen nothing like this since the early 1950s.
We're going to where the locusts are concentrated and causing them the maximum damage. When we do that, they move elsewhere, so we're trying to ensure they don't form swarms, because if they do, they'll migrate and lay their eggs somewhere else.
State agricultural agencies and local people are working together to first find where the locusts are concentrated. Then they fumigate. Most of the insects are still jumping. Their wings haven't developed to fly. The challenge is to eradicate them before they take to the air in quantities so great they'll be impossible to contain. This is a race against time, with local people and the authorities working together from dawn to dusk to try to exterminate these locusts before they multiply out of control. If they do, then they'll devour all this vegetation in the whole area, destroying livelihoods, wiping out whole communities. The climate in this normally arid region has changed. Recent winters have been milder and rainfall greater. That's created the ideal breeding conditions for the locusts.
This is a job that can't be done alone. Everyone's working together, private and public, and it's going very well. We're all working to lessen the impact of these locust plagues.
As the sun goes down, the locusts settle for the night. These locust hunters from all over Argentina work in a coordinated effort to identify where best to fumigate early the next morning. If they get it right, they're on course to contain the threat. If they don't, the locusts multiply and eat everything in their path. Daniel Schweiner, Al Jazeera, Frias, Argentina.